Okay. So our theme this year is community transport thriving, not just surviving. And that goes through to our communities as well. We want our communities to thrive, not just survive. It's a really important way of thinking about the work that we do and the communities that we live in. So many of our communities at the moment are just surviving, as are so many of those that offer community transport. So just quickly, who are we? We are the UK support body for the community transport sector. We're a UK-wide charity, and community transport provides flexible, supportive, inclusive transport door to door often for those that either cannot access public transport or public transport does not run in their area. It often is for the most isolated and those in ill health. It can be those with disabilities, older people, but it also supports younger people in areas where there is no transport to things like colleges, etc. We have over 1,200 members across the UK and over 100 members in Wales, and about 50% of our members in Wales are transport operators only, so they don't do any other work, and other members are perhaps community groups. They may have community assets and they run transport to enable people to access them. We provide a range of support functions, so developing community transport from the ground up, supporting existing operators, offering advice, policy and research, and also campaigning to make sure that the sector is fit for purpose and that our operators and volunteers are supported in the way that they deserve. So community transport now, there are a couple of things I'm going to run through with you today. Transport for health. Over the past few years, we've talked about transport to health, and we've begun to frame it slightly different in that it is transport for health. We've done some work around learning disability and transport, the draft transport strategy consultations, funding, and the conference. So, transport for health, what is the difference? Well, transport to health, we always talked about getting people to and from GPs, doctors, dentists, etc. And 60% of all community transport journeys are done that way. And a lot of those journeys are becoming longer as we see clinics and hospitals moving services out of local areas into more centralised hubs. So, for example, we may see people going from Aberystwyth to Swansea, Pembrokeshire to Cardiff, for perhaps journeys that they may have had more locally in the past. Also, we have a number of people that struggle to access the non-emergency patient transport, and you cannot take anyone with you if you travel by non-emergency patient transport, which for a number of our passengers who are vulnerable means that they would have to be alone. And that, I'm sure for many of you, is not something you want if you're going to a hospital appointment. It's not the whole story. And we've begun to look at transport for health and the journey itself being part of a well-being exercise. Now, if any of you have teenagers, I'm coming to the end of my teenagers in my life, thank heavens. But if you do have teenagers in your life, you will know that you talk to them in the car when they can't look at you. So it's something called parallel communication, where people are more likely to open up when you are not directly looking at them. And that's why people say, if you need to talk to your teenager, take them out on a car journey. And this is something we're seeing in transport, that it is the journey itself which is making people feel better rather than the treatment that they receive at the other end. Obviously, the treatment is a huge part of that, but it isn't the whole story. Some of these quotes come from the BC Gallery, which deals with veterans who have PTSD and really have issues. So when I feel stressed, being in the minibus calms me. So the actual journey is calming. Just going in the car is an adventure. Think, if you never go anywhere, how amazing it is for someone to pick you up from your door and take you out to see things. Just that journey is beneficial. When you speak to few people, just sitting next to someone and saying hello makes a difference to how you feel. Next time you're sat on a bus, say hello. You might be the only person that other passenger speaks to that day. And for some of our passengers, that journey is the only time they socialise. And it is really powerful how much of a difference mentally being able to make these journeys and talk to people makes. You should hear what we all talk about. We love listening and helping each other. This came out very strongly from the VC Gallery, where veterans won't talk. But in the bus, someone will say something, and then someone else will chime in and say, I've experienced that, I feel like that. And then suddenly the whole bus is talking in a way that they wouldn't have done if they'd been stood around in the centre. They did a trip to show us the Christmas lights. There was so much joy and laughter that evening for us. So again, Angela said earlier, it's not big things. Are there people in your community that never go out and you could pay for them to go on their local community transport vehicle to go and see the Christmas lights one evening in December? They don't get off. They don't need to get off. They may not put decorations up in their own home anymore because nobody comes to visit them. Simple, doesn't cost very much, but a beautiful, beautiful way of bringing people together at one of the loneliest times of year for many. I used to sit in the back. I was very low, but now I chat to Dave and sit in the front with him. I love our chats. This was a young lady going for mental health support. Didn't want to go, didn't want to get in the car, didn't want to talk to Dave, certainly didn't want any interaction. And over the weeks of Dave taking her to her appointments, she now has come to the point where she will talk to Dave and sit in the front. So yes, the therapy is helping, but so is Dave. He is really providing support. The journey is part of the health and well-being of the passengers. The volunteers do a huge amount of work. They don't think they do it. And having the conversation about Transport for Health has been interesting, because just by being a friendly face, they make someone feel better. And if someone feels better, they are less likely to interact with the NHS. So inclusion, we've done lots of work on inclusion over the years, and a lot of you will think that when we talk about inclusion, we talk about wheelchairs and people in wheelchairs. And when we talk about community transport, we often talk about accessible vehicles. And if you as a community come and ask me about community transport, I will say to you, get an accessible vehicle so that you can take people in wheelchairs. But it isn't about just people with mobility issues. And a piece of work we've done with the West Glamorgan Regional Partnership, which I'll get Angela to send out the link, because the information on there is really good. And the video that they've done is fantastic. So they animated the work that we've done. And it was working with those with learning disabilities to understand the barriers to transport. And a lot of them were the things you and I would have barriers with, which I'll show you in a minute. But the most important thing is that they hadn't felt heard. So when we talk about inclusion, we often miss out those with learning disabilities, and they felt unheard, and just being heard was powerful. So we've created a charter about what good transport looks for those with learning disabilities. This has gone to TfW and Welsh Government, and if any of you would like to use the charter, then please do so. It's really important that everyone understands why it's been done. And please do watch the video of the animation of the charter, because it has been built to enable all to access the information. So it's really interesting how they identified these as what transport operators could do to ensure that they can live better lives by being able to access transport. And things like timetables being clear and simple. If any of you have ever looked at a bus timetable, it's confusing. And being safe, being supported, dignity and respect, having the time and space to get on and off the bus, and easy ways to complain. We all know how difficult it is to complain about bad service from big organisations. Everyone has the right, if they have been treated poorly, to have easy access to complain. So this is a really important way that we have brought not only the CT together, but Transport for Wales, local councillors were involved, Swansea CVS was involved, as well as the West Glamorgan Partnership. And we all worked together in a collaborative way to make this happen and to ensure that what those that we were working with asked for, which was a document that stated what they wanted, came to fruition. And I'm really proud of the work that we have done there. And I do urge you to have a look at it if you can. It might help you inform some of the work you do around communication. So there's the good stuff, really. That's the fun stuff, the stuff that's been really brilliant to work on. Now we get on to the stuff that I suspect some of you have looked at and cried about, maybe, as I know that CTA have struggled with some of these. So the draft transport strategy consultations, CTA put in evidence to all of them. Reading all of them was no small task. If any of you did try and do it for your area and put in a response, then I can only applaud you. The engagement for these consultations was, in our opinion, very poor. Most of the people that we need to hear from would not have had access to the information. The engagement events were, in some areas, they didn't happen at all. They were all online. The surveys were long, very, very hard to complete. And it wasn't simplified down into looking at what transport do people want? What do they need? What's inclusive? So please keep an eye on those. The CJCs have been heavily involved in these. So, you know, if you have an opportunity to look at them, please do. It's going to be an ongoing area of work. The bus bill. The bus bill is currently going through the Senedd and will go for royal assent. We had our first CTA meeting with TfW in the southwest area, where the franchise area will go live first in 2026-27. It will then kind of go through the areas. So North Wales will be in 28, South East Wales will be in 29, and Mid Wales will be in 2030. So this is a long process, but the bus bill effectively is putting decisions about bus services in the hands of Welsh Government and TfW rather than local authorities. So they are the consultation is on what they are calling the base network, which is the network that as it exists today. As we understand it, there is no additional funding for any new services. So don't think that you're going to have whizzy new buses, because I don't think we are. but they are going to start doing regional engagement events. So for those in the Southwest, please keep an eye out for those and please do attend them. They will be happening over the summer. There is also going to be a survey put out. Once again, it's a little bit wordy, but they will also be putting out a separate survey for bus drivers and volunteers, which I think if you have anyone in your areas that are bus drivers or volunteers, we need to ensure they get it because they understand the passengers and the demographic area very, very well. So they should be able to inform the bus bill. Nothing is really set in stone, but this is heading to be approved before the Senedd elections, so that it is passed before there are any changes in government. So please engage with TfW and make your voices heard. You know, we're going to make sure that community transport is involved at every step of the way, so that we ensure that the services that our operators are doing in rural areas in particular, with those that are most isolated, will be able to continue. It is those that are living in, you know, where the cost of living is really biting at the moment, that we are seeing CT operators pick up passengers more and more because it's affordable, it's supportive. So if you can, please do engage with TfW and keep an eye out for your own area as these engagement events come through over the next, 5 years. It's going to take us 5 years. So something for us all to look forward to, I think. So I know funding is at the forefront of all the conversations we have and you have with the third sector organisations, and everyone will say that funding is really difficult at the moment. It is really challenging. And it's really challenging for organisations, particularly in smaller communities, to decide what is their priority for funding. If you can only get one lottery bid, what do you go for? Do you go for food bank? Do you go for lunch clubs? Do you go for transport? It's a really, really difficult journey through the funding landscape, and often it means doing lots of applications for very small pots of money. You know, 2,000, 3,000 to get to your 50,000. That's an awful lot of grant applications. And many of our communities are in crisis and they need additional funding support. We try our best in Wales to support those looking to access funding. And I would say for a small team, we're not too bad at it. So in the last 12 months, the CTA team have supported with nearly £1.5 million of funding coming into the CT sector in Wales. This is from various grants like Motability, Lottery, etc. We're quite skilled at understanding how to support communities to write these bids, the language you need. And we have a good support network in place to enable us to help you understand how to do that funding process. So what evidence do you need? Do you need to engage with the community? How do you do that? Do you need to do surveys? What do you actually need the money for? And how can we support you to get it from the right funder who will support you longer term? We are currently putting together a from zero CT kit. So that's for really community councils or communities to be able to have a toolkit that says, if you're starting from nothing, but you want transport, what do you need to do? So that will involve things like community engagement activities, funding, what sort of vehicles you need to think about, what do you do with all this information you collect, how do you make it clear to the community what you're doing, and that will then settle into our resources, where we will then have another resource about buying vehicles and another one around the legal bits you need when you run a vehicle. So we will have everything from zero to running your vehicle with your permit. That is coming, and hopefully that will be done by autumn. But it will support us as development managers to support you. So supporting you with your transport. If we provide information, support and knowledge, which is this toolkit, our skills, the wider skills of the CTA team, and connect people, groups and third sector organisations together, collaborate, work together, understand each other, and provide the development engagement support a community needs. What do you need to get that information, to bring your community together, to hear every voice? The impact is a viable and needs-based community transport scheme that serves those that need it most. Now, it doesn't have to be big. It can be one car in one village that has a huge impact, or it can be 10 minibuses going around a massive area. But it can start really small. All you need is a bit of will, a little bit of capacity, and support from us, and we can support you to look at if it's viable. Not always, it's not always is, but sometimes it is, and it's worth looking at if you think that people in your community are not living the lives that they should because of lack of transport. So community development in action. We do quite a lot of work. We all like to be out and about. So if any of you want me to visit, come and talk to you, then please let us know. My colleague Michelle Kelsall works in North Wales and I'm across the Mid and South. And we will always come and visit or see you online. So the CTA Wales Conference 2025, which Angela joined us for, which was fantastic. TFW spoke to us there. We had a really wide-ranging conference this year, and it was the largest one we've ever had. It would seem everyone wants to go to Llandudno for a seaside break, and we had nearly just over 80 people attend, which for us in Wales is significant. And we had lots of different organisations, and we packed a lot in. We always do this, and next year we're not going to do that, because what everyone says afterwards is we really enjoyed talking to each other. So there was a lot of networking, and we need to make more space for that. So in North Wales, Michelle Kelsall's done a lot of work in Bala and Rhyl. We are beginning new services there, and it's really exciting. And hopefully those will get off the ground very, very soon. We also have some new vehicles coming into North Wales, which is very, very positive. In South Wales, we have been working, we did a very large piece of work with the Health Board, Cardiff and the Vale, to support a community outside of Cardiff where their GP surgery was moving. Wasn't moving far, but as we know, it was too far for many people to access without transport. So we supported different groups in the community who all had different views, and I mediated really with them, with the Health Board, to understand what is possible. I think it was a very difficult conversation because a lot of people didn't want the doctor's surgery moved. And unfortunately that was set in stone. But it does show that actually it can take time to have these conversations, and it takes time to build trust with everybody to be able to facilitate a positive understanding of what would be possible if the communities wanted it to be. And also we've been supporting more regionalised looks at community transport. So Carmarthenshire, for example, has recently done a board looking at CT, and there will be recommendations in Carmarthenshire around that soon. The council have been quite proactive in looking at what they might be able to do to support community transport, and where communities are based that might need it. So it might be that at the moment existing services aren't covering those communities, but once we understand where they are, then hopefully we will be able to support our existing operators to do more. So what can you do? There's quite a lot you can do, and there's quite a lot you can do for free. So please look at the bus reform bill, and please, if you're in the Southwest, please do engage with the events that are happening. And across Wales, I really urge you to take your time to look at this, because there are some things that will not change at all, but there are aspirations in the bus bill, and it is all around supporting people to live better, and aligning with the Wellbeing Act, those sorts of things that Welsh Government have put out. It is about trying to get people to access work, leisure, education, health. And it will be interesting to see where this takes us over the next 5 years. But it is your responsibility to ensure that your communities know that they have a voice, and they really do have a voice in this. So I can only urge you to ensure that all of your communities do take the chance. Support the operators that you have. You know, you will have some operators that are going to come to you and ask you for preset money. And you can choose to do that or not. I would like you to do that. But there are other ways that you can support them. Turn out for them if they have a special event. Share their posts on Facebook when they do something well or they get good news. Go and visit them. Try and support them to get volunteers if they need it. You know, perhaps give them £50 at Christmas to enable the volunteers to have Christmas afternoon tea or lunch. The work they're doing is incredible, and we want to see more of them in our rural communities to support people who are really struggling, and they make a huge difference. So, you know, please have a chat with them. They're quite happy for a tea or a coffee and biscuits. So please do talk to them. And ask your community, do you need transport? And don't just ask the people that turn up for your meetings. Ask the people that don't turn up for your meetings, that you don't see. Ask the parents that go to the village school. There are particular issues in rural areas of young people who can't access after school activities, for example, because they have to get the school bus home, or the school bus is still a mile from their home. How do they access that bus? College transport, I suspect, is going to become a huge problem for younger people, and special educational needs transport could disappear for post-16 education completely. So there will be people in your community that currently do access some forms of transport through the local authority that may not be able to do so in the future. So think about, what does your community need? Does it need just a bus once a week to take people shopping, or does it need something more longer term to support all in the community? So have a think about it and talk to people. And then when you've talked to people, come and talk to us, and we will help you in any way that we can to ensure that everyone in their community has access to the transport that they deserve. And I think if you do nothing else, just have that conversation at your next meeting. And you can contact me. There's my email address. And if any of you would like to drop me an email and ask any questions, or ask for some support, then please do so. Be more than happy to talk to you. Thank you very much, Angela.